I know him to be a wedding photographer, and so I approached him and said, love to hear a little bit about that world. And he was excited to come and perform here tonight and get to show a different side of himself that than others know him. So I would like to open the stage right now to wedding photographer George Zoof. George? Okay. I can do this. Okay. Where's Reverend Tommy? Hello. I just found out when I was backstage getting ready for my wedding. Yes. That I don't see him. The groom didn't show up. Doesn't seem like it. So I went onto the site. It was Reverend Tommy's prearranged marriages for people that nobody else marry him.com. And do I get my $45,000 back? If he doesn't show, then yes. Okay. But if he comes within 100 yards, we keep the money. Okay. Anyway, so I'm going to go to Plan B, and I'm going to tell you a couple stories from my experience as a. Excuse me. Do I make up for you?
Oh, honey, let me look.
We got Lori and Lisa from Christian Dior. I understand it's like a $75 base. Anyway, normally I'm a wedding photographer for over 20 years, and so I got, shot over 1,000 weddings, and so I got one or two stories. The first one, it was this bride, let's call her Stephanie, because that's her name. Because she's not very innocent. So Stephanie, on her wedding day, not really used to it. Stephanie, on her wedding day, decided to do a little bit of drinking, which is fine, because I think just about 95% of brides and grooms do a little bit of drinking before ceremony. Her problem was that her liquid of choice was champagne. And who here, is anybody getting married? We got, yes, okay, we got a couple that's getting married here. Do not drink champagne before your ceremony. Now, Stephanie, it was this big. We'll have to describe Stephanie's wedding. Stephanie, this was in Bloomington, and she, very Catholic, and it was a big Catholic ceremony. St. Mary's Church is actually a sister city to our basilica here, so very formal. 300-400 of her closest parents, neighbors, and friends, about 15 people. And apparently it was such a big to-do that the priest was not just the priest of the church, but he had a red, anybody here Catholic? Okay, red, like oak-type hat. Is that a cardinal? Bishop. Yeah. Okay, so it must have been the bishop. So the bishop is performing the ceremony. And so very formal. And so Stephanie decides to do a little bit of drinking, her and her girls. There were mimosas. How bad can that be? Orange juice, a little bit of champagne. In her case, it was a lot of champagne. She is walking down the aisle with her father, and her father is holding her up. And she's just like, Dad! And that wasn't the bad part. The bad part was, what does champagne make you do? It makes you giggle. And so she's like, and so anyway, she finally gets down to the altar, and they start their thing. And the bishop comes out, and he's all, I don't know, a bishop. Have you got to picture me as a bishop right now? Anyway, so the bishop was like, dude, Stephanie, take my interview off And meantime, now we didn't know this until later, but we also ran video, and we mic'd the groom up. And so when we were listening to the video later, through the whole time, the groom was like, now you gotta picture me as the groom, which is quite hard to do. And he said, stop it, you're embarrassing us, stupid. So that just made her giggle even more. And I don't know if you've ever been in the Basilica, but the acoustics there are incredible. So one little snicker, and you could hear it across the church. 400 snickers, and you could hear it across Wilmington. And so everybody started giggling. We got the bishop there trying to do his, and now we're gonna do the rings. Anyway, so the only people that were not laughing was, of course, the bishop, the groom, and the father of the bride, who's paying for the whole thing, and being totally embarrassed in front of his 400 friends, and the 15 friends of the bride and groom. So that's one story. The second story, this wedding. I was going to do 3 or 4 different weddings, but this wedding continued to be, the reception was also made my top 4. And so, okay, so we get down to the reception. She continues to drink in the limo. And we get down there, and they greet a few people. We take some pictures, which was a story in itself, but we don't have time for that. But we get down to the reception, and they decide to, instead of do a dollar dance, they decided to kidnap the bride. And I don't know if you've ever seen this or not, but the groomsmen come in and they actually kidnap the bride away right in the middle of the reception. Best man comes out and he makes an announcement, and he said, okay, the bride has been kidnapped, and we need a ransom of $200. And so they pass the hat around and they start collecting money, and 10 minutes goes by and they collect $200. The best man takes it backstage to the kidnapper, and which was the bride. And she said, that's not enough, I want more. So the best man was like, you gotta picture me as the best man now. Okay. All right, the kidnapper needs another $100. And so he passes the hat around, and they collect another $100 and bring it back to the bride. Bride's gone. This is downtown Wilmington, and the bride and all of the bridesmaids are not in that back room. And they realized that there was a back exit to that back room. And so the bride and all of her bridesmaids have left the reception. So we are, we're looking all over, 3-block area of downtown Wilmington, asking people, have you seen this? And so finally, I'm like, yeah, we did see a bride that looked a little like this over at the Pilot House Bar, 3 blocks away. So we ran down there, and sure enough, she's at the bar with her bridesmaids, and they get enough ransom yet? I'm like, I think they did, and we should probably head back to your reception where everybody's waiting for you. And so she's like, okay, all right. And by this time, she was just absolutely just trashed. I mean, it took all of her bridesmaids and me to basically, get her up the hill and back into her reception. By the time she got there, it was down to about 50 people. So I found out later why she didn't really give a crap. And that was because they were already married. And, yes, they were already married. And, Catholic Church, that's wrong, right? Basilica to do that with God and bishop and all that. And, yeah. So yeah, they were married 6 months. Nobody knew. I didn't even know, and I'm the photographer. I mean, as a photographer, you're supposed to tell me everything. I get that patient-client confidentiality. Except 12 years later when you're in a black box theater. Her name is Stephanie. Speaking of that kind of goes into another story. And this is just a real quick one. Did a couple celebrity weddings and didn't know it until the reception. So here I am, because I always, a year or so before the wedding, I deal with the bride and the groom. I'm sorry, the bride and the bride's mother. And very rarely do I actually get to meet the groom until the wedding day. So here I am at this reception, and I was over at Kenmure Country Club, and the golf cart driver is driving me up to the reception. He's like, hey, this Nae Brown wedding, is that the football player Nae Brown? Or the Eagles? And I'm like, God, no, they would have told me that. Bride would have told me that. I get to the reception, and the first thing I see is the little 4-year-old ring bearer looking up at this big, huge guy. Hey! They got a picture of me as a 4-year-old ring bearer. Hey, are you a football player too? Yeah! Now you got to picture me as a good football player. Yeah! What's your name? Refrigerator Perry! And I'm like watching, I'm like, Perry? Oh, okay, I should probably take pictures. So I was like, wow, I'm actually shooting Nae Brown, which I have no idea who Nae Brown is and still don't, because he was pretty much on the bench with the Eagles.
And you look like my Bruce pony top ever.
Thank you, bridesmaid. And so I'm looking around and I see other. I really don't envy you. This suck. Not that you need balloons. Starting to like this. Anyway, so I'm looking around the room and I see other football players, and it was actually it was really the neatest wedding for me because I got a picture of about 12 professional football players in a picture with Nae Brown. But I got to meet Refrigerator Perry and a couple other guys I don't remember. So anyway, and then okay, I got to do my. Yeah, well, like, yeah, okay, I can do that one. I'm going to
Don't know how much longer we can look at your breasts, but.
This one's like toe to toe. Okay.
I was talking once I'm done.
Okay, so now I'm gonna tell you the story. I'm gonna tell you a story of never too late to get married. All right, so I get to this bride's house. She wanted me to start at her house where she's getting her hair done and her makeup. And so wedding is at 4 o'clock sharp. I get to her house. She told me to get there at 3:30. I get there right at 3:30, and there's a bridesmaid that's getting her hair done and her makeup done. And I was like, okay, where's the bride? And just want to let her know that I'm here. So I see the bride. She's in jeans and t-shirt and just kind of having a cigarette. And I was like, okay. And so then it's like 4:15. We're still at the house. There was another bridesmaid in the chair. The bride is still in the corner, just having a drag. Again, she was a chain smoker. And so now it's like 5:04, and the bride is just sitting down in the chair to get her hair and makeup done. Mind you, she doesn't look like this yet. She is still in.
Thank the Lord.
Definitely didn't look like this. Anyway. And so she finally sits down, and I come over to her. It's like 5:04. Wedding's at 4. I'm like, you know, your wedding's in 5 minutes. Is it like around the corner? Gotcha, it's about 20 minutes away. I'm like, it's 20 minutes away. Okay, so if we left right now, which we're not because you're not nearly dressed, you're going to be 15 minutes late. Yeah, well, you know, they can't have the wedding without the bride. I'm like, okay. So I'm just a photographer, so I just start taking pictures. 4:15, and she just has her hair and makeup done, and she's putting the dress on. It's 4:20. We finally leave her house 4:25. The church is 20 minutes away. So at this point, she's 45 minutes late going out the door. And so we get down to the church, and you know, it's a hot July, 95 degrees. I'm gonna take this off. I don't know how you're gonna. Do you have one of these? No, you don't. No, you can't say because he's here. Anyway, so we finally get to the church, and God, sorry, it's a little upset, which I understand that's a common problem.
Yes.
I know this. So we get to the church. It's a hot, like 95 degrees inside the church. Everybody's just in there, just sweating, like, what's going on? What's happening? And we get in there. Apparently, nobody told them. At this point, we arrived 45 minutes late, and nobody's told them. So everybody's like, "What? Something's going on. Something's wrong. They're not gonna have the wedding." And so I just kind of told the front row, I was like, they're here. They're here. We're gonna have it like any minute now. Pass it on. So they kind of pass the word on. Everybody's like, oh, thank God. So I take my position. So you know, this is the front of the church here, and I just wasn't in a wedding dress, and I just take my position, waiting for them to come down the aisle. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. My knees are getting kind of hurt. 20 minutes goes by. I'm like, what's going on? And everybody's like, what is going on? I'm like, I don't know. So I ran back to where they were. It's like, all right, you've been here for 20 minutes. You're already 45 minutes late. Now you're an hour and, what's the math? Hour and 5 minutes late. She said, well, sorry. So, anyway, so I get over there and I ask the bride, I was like, what's going on? What's the holdup? You know, do we have a problem with the groom? Is he getting his hair done? And she said, we forgot the license back at the house. And I was like, okay, that happens all the time. This preacher isn't conducting this without the license present. It's state law. Remember that. Make sure you have a license. Now, I've run into that problem before, and most most reverends and preachers, Tommy, I'm sure would let it slide. Maybe. But anyway, not this preacher. It's like, oh no, I'm not losing my, my license, to perform weddings because a piece of paper isn't here. So he made him go back. 20 minutes there, 20 minutes back. And again, there was no announcement to the, to the guests. So I went back and was like, hey, it's cool, it's gonna be about 25 minutes or so. They forgot the license. Pass it on. So they did it, and they got the license, and they got married, and I'm sure they live happily ever after. And I have like 100 other stories, but I don't have any more time. So, look sorry for the peep show.
Celibacy doesn't seem so difficult. Indeed. So one of the things when I asked George, I was like, this would be great because you can come and you can show all the photos from all your weddings. George actually does this pretty specific thing called like zip weddings or whatever that. So he basically takes all the photos, burns them to a zip drive, gives them to you day of, and walks away, never to be involved again. So I was like, that's cool. But he's like, yeah, I actually don't have any pictures from any of our weddings. I don't save them. That's my sales pitch. It's like, I burn it, I give it to you, and they're your property. It's like, well, that's not very visually satisfying. Well, I guess visually satisfying wasn't really an issue.